These are not haunted places made famous by stories, these are places locals are too afraid to go near. What you're about to watch is real history, real fear, and places people avoid for a reason. Before you watch this video, understand one thing. This is not a typical horror video made just to scare you. What you are about to see is based on real places, real history, and real fear that still exists today. These are locations locals genuinely avoid, not because of stories, but because of what people experienced there. I didn't add fake ghosts or dramatic lies. I focused on what feels real when you stand there yourself. If you watch this till the end, you won't just hear stories. You'll feel them. And once you do, some places will never feel normal again. If this video made you feel something real, subscribe to the channel, more true stories like this are coming. 1 Bangor Fort, India. I still remember the silence before I even reached Bangor Fort. The road was normal at first, but as the fort came closer, the area felt strangely empty. No shops, no children, no noise. Even the air felt heavy. At the entrance, there was a government sign clearly warning people not to enter after sunset. That alone was enough to make my stomach tighten, but I went in during the afternoon, telling myself this was just history, not fear. Inside the fort, everything looked frozen in time. Broken houses, empty temples, and long stone paths that felt like they had been abandoned in a hurry. I noticed something strange very early, there were birds, but no sound. I kept walking, but every step echoed louder than it should have, as if the place was listening. I tried to stay calm, but the deeper I went, the more uncomfortable I felt, without any clear reason. A local guide standing far outside the main ruins warned me not to stay long. He didn't smile while talking. He said villagers never come here after sunset, not even for money. When I asked why, he just said people who ignore the warning don't always come back the same. He didn't say ghosts. He didn't need to. His face said enough. As I stood near the old palace ruins, I suddenly felt a strong sense of being watched. There was no one around, but my chest felt tight, like something was wrong. I tried to focus on my camera, but my hands were shaking slightly. The temperature felt cooler there, even though the sun was still up. I checked my phone, and for a few seconds, it lost signal completely. What disturbed me most was how fast time seemed to move. I thought I had been inside for 20 minutes, but nearly 2 hours had passed. I felt confused, tired, and strangely sad, like this place was carrying old emotions that never left. Before panic could fully settle in, I decided to leave. As I walked out, I felt relief almost immediately. The air felt lighter, and sounds slowly returned. I didn't look back. That warning sign at the entrance suddenly made perfect sense. Bangor Fort didn't need ghosts to feel haunted. Its history, silence, and the fear of locals were more than enough to explain why this place is avoided, respected, and left alone. Even now, I know one thing for sure. Some places don't scare you loudly. They scare you quietly, and that is much worse. 2 Poveglia Island, Italy. I first saw Poveglia Island from a small boat near Venice. It looked quiet, almost peaceful, but the boatman refused to get any closer. He stopped the engine and told me this was as far as he would go. His voice was calm, but his eyes were serious. He said locals never visit this island, not even fishermen. That was my first warning, and it didn't feel like a story meant to scare tourists. As I stood watching from the water, the island felt wrong. The buildings were broken, covered in vines, and completely silent. I knew the history. This place was used as a quarantine island during the plague, where thousands died. Later, it became a mental hospital. None of this was a secret. It was documented history. Still, seeing it in real life felt different. Much heavier. The closer I focused on the island, the more uncomfortable I became. There were no birds flying above it. No movement. Just stillness. The wind around us felt colder, even though the weather in Venice was warm. I remember thinking how strange it was that such a small island could feel so isolated, even in daylight. The boatman told me something quietly, almost like he didn't want the island to hear him. He said bones and ash from plague victims still make up the soil. Locals believe the land itself is cursed, not because of ghosts, but because of the pain that never left. As he spoke, I felt a tight pressure in my chest, like staying any longer was a bad idea. I tried to imagine walking inside those abandoned buildings. Empty hospital rooms. Rusted beds. Hallways where patients once screamed. I imagined the doctor who reportedly went mad and died there. These were not legends invented for horror. These were real reports, passed down and recorded. That thought made my skin crawl. What scared me most was how strongly my instincts told me to leave. Nothing dramatic happened. No sounds. No shadows. Just a deep sense of unease that kept growing every second. My mind felt cloudy, and my mood dropped suddenly, for no clear reason. When the boat turned back toward Venice, I felt relief almost instantly. My breathing eased. The island slowly disappeared behind us, and I understood why it remains closed. Poveglia does not need visitors. It is not a place meant to be explored. Some places are abandoned because they are old. Others are abandoned because people learned, the hard way, to stay away. Poveglia Island belongs to the second kind. 3 Cecil Hotel, Los Angeles, USA. I reached the Cecil Hotel in the early evening, when the street lights had just turned on. From the outside, the building looked old but normal. Nothing dramatic. Still, my chest felt tight as I stood there. I had read the history before coming, so I knew this place carried real stories, not internet rumors. I told myself to stay calm and walk in like any other visitor. The moment I entered the lobby, the air felt different. Heavy. The lights were dim, and the silence felt uncomfortable, even with people around. I noticed how everyone avoided eye contact. No one stayed still for long. I felt like I was not welcome there, even though no one said anything. As I waited near the elevator, I kept thinking about the documented deaths connected to this hotel. Serial killers once stayed here. Many guests died under unexplained circumstances. And then there was the Elisa Lam case, which made the hotel famous worldwide. A young woman, last seen acting strangely in the elevator, later found dead in the water tank. Everything about that case was real and recorded. That thought refused to leave my mind. I rode the elevator alone. The doors closed slowly, and for a second, I remembered the CCTV footage I had seen online. My heart rate picked up. Nothing happened, but the silence felt loud. I suddenly became very aware of my breathing. I pressed my floor and waited, counting the seconds. When I stepped into the hallway, it felt narrow and endless. The carpet was worn, and the lights flickered slightly. I walked slowly, listening to my footsteps. Every sound felt amplified. I tried to focus on the walls, the doors, anything normal, but my thoughts kept drifting back to the people who stayed here and never left alive. I stood still for a moment and felt a wave of sadness wash over me. Not fear. Sadness. Like the building itself was tired. I felt watched, but not by something visible. More like the weight of memories. I checked my phone, and again, the signal dropped for a few seconds. It made my stomach turn. I didn't stay long. As I walked back to the elevator, I felt relief building with every step. When I finally stepped outside, the noise of the city felt comforting. Cars, voices, life. I took a deep breath and realized how tense I had been the entire time. The Cecil Hotel does not need ghosts to feel haunted. Its history is enough. The real stories, the real deaths, and the real fear people still feel today explain why locals avoid this place. Some buildings remember everything, and standing there, I felt like the Cecil remembered too much. For Aokigahara Forest, Japan. I entered Aokigahara Forest early in the morning, thinking daylight would make it feel safer. The forest sits at the base of Mount Fuji, and from the outside it looks green and alive. But the moment I stepped inside, everything changed. The sound stopped almost completely. No wind, no birds, no insects. Just my footsteps on the ground, and even those felt too loud. The trees were thick and twisted, growing so close together that sunlight barely reached the forest floor. After a few minutes, I realized my phone signal was gone. I knew this was common here, but still, it made me uncomfortable. I felt cut off from the world, like the forest had closed behind me. As I walked deeper, I noticed small signs tied to trees. Some were official notices asking people to think about their families and seek help. Seeing those signs made my chest feel heavy. This forest is known because many people came here during their darkest moments. That is not a rumor. Police records confirm it. Locals know it. That knowledge stays with you when you walk these paths. I tried to focus on breathing and staying calm, but the silence was intense. It felt like the forest was holding something in. Every few steps, I felt the urge to turn around, even though nothing was happening. No strange noises. No shadows. Just a strong feeling that I should not be there for long. At one point, I saw abandoned items near a tree. I didn't touch anything. I didn't get close. That moment hit me hard. It made everything feel real in a way videos and photos never can. This was not horror for entertainment. This was real human pain, left behind in a quiet place. Time felt strange inside the forest. I checked my watch often because minutes felt longer than they should. My thoughts became heavier, slower. I understood why locals avoid this place unless they have a serious reason to enter. It doesn't attack you. It drains you. When I finally turned back, I felt relief with every step toward the exit. The moment I reached the edge of the forest, sounds returned. Birds. Wind. Life. I took a deep breath and felt like I had come back from somewhere far away. Aokigahara Forest is not haunted in the way movies show. It is haunted by silence, history, and emotions that never fully left. Standing there made me realize something important. Some places don't scare you with what you see. They scare you with what you feel. And that fear stays with you long after you leave. 5 Hoia Baciu Forest, Romania. I reached Hoia Baciu Forest in the late afternoon, when the sun was still visible but already weak. From the outside, it looked like any normal forest. Families were walking near the edge, and nothing felt strange at first. But the moment I stepped past the main path, the atmosphere changed. The air felt thick, and the trees looked twisted, growing in unnatural shapes that made me slow down without realizing it. As I walked deeper, my phone signal dropped suddenly. I stopped and checked it twice, thinking it was a mistake. It wasn't. The silence around me felt unnatural. I could hear my own breathing clearly, and that made me uncomfortable. I remembered reading that many researchers had experienced equipment failures here. Standing there, that fact didn't feel like a coincidence. The ground felt uneven, and I noticed an open clearing ahead. Locals talk about this clearing often. No trees grow there, even though everything around it is green. I stood at the edge and felt a strange pressure in my head, like a dull headache starting without warning. I hadn't been walking long, yet I suddenly felt tired. I tried to take photos, but my camera froze for a few seconds. When it started working again, I felt uneasy. My thoughts became scattered, and I had trouble focusing. Nothing scary appeared, but that made it worse. The forest wasn't showing me anything. It was making me feel something, and I didn't like it. Time felt strange. I was sure I had been inside for only 30 minutes, but when I checked my watch, more than an hour had passed. That moment caused real fear. I felt watched, not by something I could see, but by the space itself. I stood still and listened, hoping to hear another person. There was nothing. I decided to leave. As I turned back, my heart started beating faster for no clear reason. Every step felt heavier than before, like the forest didn't want me to go. When I finally saw the edge of the trees again, I felt relief wash over me. The moment I stepped out, the headache faded, and my phone signal returned. People were there again. Noise came back. Life felt normal. I looked back at the forest once and understood why locals avoid it. Hoia Baciu doesn't chase you. It confuses you. It drains you. And that quiet feeling stays with you long after you leave. Some places don't need legends to feel disturbing. Being there is enough.